you doing,
All right,
Mike?
we're on there.
Good morning and welcome to Today in L.A. My name's Mike Amos. He's Bill Rice Jr. And along the same lines, we got a movement going down in Grayton Beach. Do we have a name or a person of interest?
My name?
Yes, sir.
Michael Roy, R-O-Y, Amos.
Okay, and you calling from where?
Grayton Beach, Florida. I'm calling at our other home, next door to our other home.
Okay.
Now, Mike, let me ask Mike Amos, what's your middle name, Mike?
Revel, R-E-V-I-L-L, and I proudly carry that name, Revel Amos, Michael Revel Amos.
So that's why Michael is not a junior.
He's not a junior.
Y'all have different middle names.
The only person that called him Junior was Bud Casey. He called him Junior. Hope everybody's doing well today.
I think my mother was the reason I wasn't a junior. I think she wanted me to be named after her dad, Roy Crow.
Yeah.
Well, you got a great middle name. It's a name for a great person.
I don't think we need to get that personal with a bunch out there today. We got millions and millions and millions of people watching our show this morning on Facebook, and
they call my granddad J. Roy. They call me M. Roy.
M. Roy, okay, is that right? I think he's trying to tell me something. You reckon he's not very proud of his daddy's name for some reason?
Revel, R-E-V-I-L-L,
a proud family that originated out of Coffee County, went up into the Goshen area for years and years and years in the Troy area, and I'm very proud of my heritage and proud of the people I represent, whether or not I'm a junior or a senior or whatever. It's time to talk sports. It's time to talk what's going on in our community. You know, I read an article yesterday, and one of the Alabama players, I can't remember, he's an offensive lineman, said the Missouri front was as hard-nosed a front as they played against all year long. They were talking about this big redhead, this defensive tackle that he said he was wearing us all out at one time. You know, you could tell that Missouri was not really a bad football team. They just ran up against an offense that scored a bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the impression I had too, Mike. Is that Missouri very physical, and they might be better than we think. Who does Missouri play this week? Tennessee or somebody like that?
I had that.
I think they're on the road against Tennessee.
Yeah, I had that.
That'll be
that checked off, and of course.
I'll tell you what. I was trying to explain to my wife. I was like, even if they score here with no time left, they don't kick the extra points. In college football, the game's just over. So I said the final score will be 38-19 if they score.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't realize that. They always feel like you have to kick an extra point, but at the end of the game in a situation like that, it's just 6 points and the game's over. I had to give him credit, though. I remember we were at a Troy Georgia game several years ago, and a lot of people were tackling and hugging each other in the game like Troy had won when Troy scored a touchdown with no time left, and the final score was 45-35. So stuff like that means a lot to people.
Yeah, I've always thought, I don't like it when people criticize somebody for trying to score a touchdown at the end of the game.
Did you see, evidently there was some words between the Missouri coach and Saban. I don't know, if I'm a coach for the other team, if I'm getting beat, I want to score as many points as possible just to let my fans out there to know we hadn't quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
if they would have hit a knee, I would have thought they weren't trying to better themselves. You know
what were the words about? You know,
you could see it. He said, in fact, Saban walked away from him, and the coach stayed with him for 4 or 5 strides, and I'm sure it was something Saban said. What are you doing trying to score right there at the end? I'm sure that's probably what Saban said, but I'm not sure.
Saban doesn't get his second and third string guys, playing better. I mean, it's really like that with every team they play when they start blowing people out. Every time they ever put their 2s and 3s in after last year,
Yeah.
Defensively, Alabama's still not there, in my opinion. They look good in spots in that game, but I was not impressed like I thought I'd be.
Well, you take number 17 out of the game, or take 17 and 22 out of the game, it's probably straight up.
Yeah.
Golden's got a lot of pressure. Golding, sorry, I'm saying Golding, has a lot of pressure. He's a young defense coordinator, and you got Charlie Strong, who was a head coach for several years, defense coordinator on both Florida national championship teams, a great defensive coach as an analyst. And then you got Stoops' brother, who's the head coach at Arizona, was defense coordinator for several years at Oklahoma. He's a defensive analyst as well.
All right, there's another former head coach on the staff, isn't it? Tennessee head coach?
You got Butch Jones on the staff. You got Kurt Flood, the former Rutgers coach, the offensive line coach. You got four or five former head coaches on the staff.
Isn't that amazing?
And Alabama's safety coach is out sick. They haven't said what he has, if it's COVID or not, but Stoops is actually coaching the safeties right now because Alabama's down an assistant coach.
He's from Ozark, Charles Kelly.
I wonder what's going on with him.
Well, is Charles Kelly something wrong with him?
Mm-hmm.
He's got COVID.
Oh, he does. I didn't know that. Of course, he's like you said, formerly from Ozark. His daddy was a legendary coach, and I hope this is nothing that's real serious. And
he was the defense coordinator at Florida State. The guy's got credibility. Are you hearing about all these false tests now, Bill? This is really getting pretty ridiculous. Georgia State was supposed to play Charlotte this past weekend. So they're testing 3 days a week on game week. So they test Thursday, and 8 players come down with the coronavirus. So they have to cancel the game against Charlotte. And then the next day they test these same guys again, and they come back negative. So basically those were just, human error tests. They basically somehow, didn't have the coronavirus, but they said they did. And the next thing you know, you have to cancel a football game.
I'm gonna tell you this, and I said this the other day. They're gonna against some kind of opponents. This is going to be a way out of some teams having to play the game.
Yeah.
You think that one of the worst teams, let's just say one of the worst teams in the country, has to play Alabama, or Auburn, or Georgia, or Ohio State, or whatever? It's a good way to get out of the game. Is just tell folks that.
No, we had some positives. But on the testing, false positives. But now there's big stories coming out that up to 90% of the positive tests we've heard about all these months may have been bogus positive tests. It has to do with the PCR test. It's an arbitrary number, when you say positive or negative. It's not like a pregnancy test where you're either definitely positive or negative. And there are cycles DNA cycles they run to test the little strips of DNA, and they're doing 40 cycles. Well, if you do 40 cycles, you're going to get some little trace amount, and it's going to come back positive. Now people said, we're getting way too many positives. We need to do 30 cycles. If you do 30 cycles, 9 out of 10 positive tests will become negative tests. So it's kind of laughable to me, but there's a distinct possibility that all of these positive cases we've been stressing out over for 7 months, up to 90% of them might have been nothing to worry about whatsoever.
Of course, we got a lot to talk about. We've got some big games coming up this weekend. Alabama playing host to Texas A&M. Auburn going to Georgia for a big 6:30 game. And the Troy South Alabama game is going to also be at 6:30. Is that right? We're going to go head-to-head with Auburn?
It's going to be on ESPNU. Big news out of Georgia yesterday. J.T. Daniels has been medically cleared to play. Surprise, surprise. That he would be ready for this game. So they'll have a little bit more experience at quarterback against Auburn. Of course, he's coming off a knee injury suffered in 2019, so I don't know how much that's still going to affect him or not.
Tell us about him, Mike.
It's either going to be him or a freshman that looks horrible against Arkansas, or a third-year walk-on quarterback named Bennett.
Who looked pretty good, actually.
Well, let me just say this. To me, that gives Auburn a huge advantage in that game. Tell us about the kid from California, Mike. That's a Georgia. Isn't he from California, the Georgia quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they say at one time he was the best quarterback in college football at one time?
High school, coming out of high school.
High school, yeah.
Yeah, but he got beat out in college by Slovis, the USC starter now. So it makes you wonder, how good this guy really is. I mean, I know he graduated high school early, kind of like a Jake Bentley situation, and he had some decent numbers at USC, but I don't know. USC and the Pac-12 compared to the SEC is a lot different, in my opinion.
Yeah. Of course, we're going to go over.
Well, tell that to the former Stanford quarterback who came from the Pac-12 and lit up LSU for 630 yards.
Normally that would be the case, but I called that LSU game for weeks. I saw that 17.5. I said,
I wish I would.
Lost too much. I still can't believe that line. I think at kickoff they got down to 14 because Stingley, they're LSU's best defensive player. They say the best defensive player in the country. Ended up going to the hospital the night before the game, and he didn't even play for LSU.
What was that guy's name?
Stingley, number 24.
Stingley, yeah.
He is good.
Supposed to be the best in the country.
I think we're going to see maybe an undefeated team in the NFL this year. I don't know if anybody beat the Chiefs.
What's the final score? I watched a little of it and then went.
I watched the whole ball game, and let me just say this.
4-20.
Yeah, I felt sort of sorry for the Baltimore quarterback. He didn't. They kept the ball away from him. It's not that he didn't play pretty well, but he just didn't have it enough times to come back. They dominated the time of possession. Kansas City. Kansas City is a very good team, and let me tell you this quarterback of theirs is worth everything they're paying him. He is by far the best quarterback in the NFL in my book.
Yeah.
What he does, he
played at Texas Tech, and people knew about him, but he never really had great teams when he was there.
Well, didn't our guy?
I didn't know about him.
Didn't our guy coach him at Texas Tech?
I think Neil left for Kentucky before he got there, I want to say.
Was Tuberville his college coach?
It was Kingsbury was his college coach.
Yeah. Everybody talks about Tuberville, and of course he's running for the state, the U.S. Senator. And I think he's going to win without any problem. I think personally, but if they would show some footage of when Neil Brown was a young coach at Texas Tech, it showed a film where Tuberville took off his hat and hit, and this is during the game, and hit Neil Brown on top of the head with it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that, Mike?
Neil Green.
Mike.
Yeah, you told me about that.
And to me, if they'd seen that, they would have. He might have lost some votes because, you don't do that to anybody on national television.
Oh God, Saban used to get in trouble for tongue lashings he gave Lane Kiffin, but I never saw him hit him with a hat.
Well, let me tell you this: that one coach, and I'm not going to mention his name, left a staff meeting that Saban was putting on one time. This had happened a few years ago, and he got up and left the room. And of course, this is hearsay, but a guy told me that should know that after the meeting, Saban went up and asked him. He said, "What are you doing leaving the room when we're having a staff meeting?" He said, "Well, Coach, I was afraid if I'd stay there any longer, I'd have to whip you." And that is true. I'm not going to tell you who it was that did it, but it came from a pretty good pretty good source that he had had all the chewing out he had wanted, so he got up and left the room.
I would not want to mess with Nick Saban, though. I think he's one of those type guys you'd kill. I
You'd have to kill him. I don't think so.
I think he would be ruthless in a fight. He would never stop till he was.
Well, there are a lot of people like that, Mike. Pride. Brantley beat Highland home 48-12 this past week, Mike. Boy, the name you hear the most, the name you hear is Tucker Gilchrist.
I like that
Tucker,
name.
if you're watching our show this morning before you go to school, give us a ring. Our phone number is 670-0052, 670-0052. We'd love to talk to Tucker Gilchrist this morning. Crenshaw Christian's got a guy named, listen to this, got a guy named Christian Holloway, Mike, and he had 9 carries this past week and for 53 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion and 7 tackles. Another guy on this Crenshaw County Academy team is Austin Archie. Isn't that a great name? 3 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and also had 6 tackles. And another Crenshaw Christian guy, John David Taylor, had 10 carries for 98 yards and also had 12 tackles. Boy, he had a great night. Mm-hmm. And I've got to give you one more. Well, is it one more? Yeah, one more. That's quarterback Dimitri Tony was 6 out of 9 for 187 yards and 3 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion as the Cougars of Crenshaw Christian Academy romped over Lakeside 50-6. He also had 11 carries for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had over 300 yards.
He had 6 completions for 190 yards. That's,
exactly.
What's my math? That's over 30 yards of completion.
Exactly right. And the guy's name was Dimitri Tony. And while we're on the topic of Tucker Gilchrist, I just love that name. All you Brantley folks can get excited. He was 10 out of 15 for 206 yards and 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in the Bulldogs' 48-12 victory at Highland home. He also had 9 tackles on defense. Man, what are they doing putting that guy on defense, man? when you're everything on offense, what do you think?
He's, quarterbacks are supposed to be great athletes, so I bet he's probably a safety or something like that.
Of course, we're excited about the weekend, and Mike, this is going to be a toss-up this weekend, the way I look at it, when Troy travels to Mobile to play University of South Alabama. Don't you look at it sort of like a toss-up?
Well, Desmond Trotter, the quarterback, apparently it's going to be a game-time decision. There was an article about that yesterday. He was coming off a shoulder injury, and then I don't know if they said that he was sitting out because of COVID issues as well. They said that he'd have to be medically cleared before the game.
Who is this now, Trotter?
Yeah, their quarterback that started the season.
Yeah, that's right.
But for some reason, if they say he's going to possibly play, it makes me think he'll start against Troy.
Well, what he is, he's two-dimensional. I mean, he can run and he can throw.
Yeah, he's a dual threat.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, I know we've got a lot of sports to talk about, but isn't tonight the presidential debate? What do y'all think?
There's an election this year?
Yeah. Biden versus Trump. Trump versus Biden. I don't know how many debates they're going to have. But
my wife doesn't let me watch news anymore. I don't even watch it.
I tune out all this presidential politics, but I'm going to have to watch the debate.
You know, we're looking at more of these high school scores this past weekend. You know, Ops got a real good quarterback. Mike, let's see if you know him as a household word. What's his name? Do you know?
He must be a Hightower?
No, he's not a Hightower. Can you get one more guess?
I don't know.
His name is Hal Smithhart. Hal Smithhart from Op was 17 out of 25 for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. This Smithhart kid is something. They got wide receiver Zacchaeus Lindsey had 110 yards with 5 catches, and Op receiver Robbie Gafford had 4 catches for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Kevin Parenia had 13 tackles for the Bobcats. And
Hal Smithart sounds like an insurance agent.
I know it. Our vacuum clean salesman. If I ask you who
what do you think of this line? Troy's 5.5. I'm kind of shocked by that.
I am too. How could Troy be a favorite?
You got to jump all on South Alabama at that. I would think. I think this game will come down to the wire.
You know what's so sad about all of this? I bet if you looked at the rankings or the ratings of college football teams, I imagine Troy would probably be in the lower echelon, wouldn't you think?
Well, I mean, you've got to win this game, or you'll win it that way. South Alabama will be 1-3 if they lose. Troy will be 2-1. With everything to play for, this is a must-win. I mean, I'm hearing from people out of Mobile that I know that saying that this is a must-win for Campbell, that he will not finish out the year.
You mean they would actually fire him?
You got to look at it this way. They open a brand new state-of-the-art football stadium, holds 27,000. That will be 3 straight home losses to start the season.
Yeah, it's not good. And he's a great guy.
That's going to be too tough for any coaching staff, especially when you're coming off. Chip Lindsey's coming off 5-7. They're coming off 2-10 and 3-9.
Yeah.
In their third year, you got to expect more out of the program than that.
I would think so.
It's not like you can't recruit in Mobile, Northwest Florida, Mississippi junior colleges, Alabama, Georgia. I mean, look at the players you could get.
Yeah. One of the hottest coaches in college football is the coach at UAB. If you'll think about it, South Alabama came out of the blocks, looked real good on their first game, and won that ball game over Southern Miss. Then just had Tulane, which has turned out to be a very good football team. Mm-hmm. They had them up by 24 in the second half and lost that game. So, and then they were very unimpressive against UAB. You take that game away, and they've got a pretty good football team, Mike.
We talk a lot about the point spread, and reading my football magazine that Mike loaned me, I learned that what team do you think is the best against the spread over the last 3 seasons? Fourth?
Oh, gosh.
I think Tennessee's been really good late last year and, already started this year. They were really good. I'm trying to think nationally, though. Probably Ohio State would probably be way up there.
No, they're about, like Alabama, they're about 50-50.
Wait a minute, give me a second here. Let's see here.
I gave y'all a huge hint just a second ago in the question.
Who'd you say?
Tell us who it is.
UAB is the best in America against the spread.
Are you serious? Out of Birmingham, Alabama, UAB.
That's about 70%. So if you could go back in the time machine, remember that.
Well, that is really something. That's something. The reason we're touching on these high school.
How crazy is that this time next year they'll be in a 55,000 seat stadium in downtown Birmingham?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's got to be exciting.
Their program is on the move. It's no question about it.
But they got to keep Bill Clark. I'm surprised they've kept him. I mean, because he's done spectacularly well.
Yeah.
$1.65 million at UAB though. That's pretty good money, man.
It sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Want to mention you beat Stanhope Elmore this weekend. So my good friend Coach Ed Rigsby is doing very well at Eufaula. I think his only loss was to I want to say was Phoenix City. Is that right?
I thought they beat them, Phoenix City.
No, they lost to. They beat Phoenix City, but they lost to Robert E. Lee, and then they lost to Opelika.
Oh, they've lost 2 ball games, but
they have played a tough schedule.
Talking about the Kilcrest kid, whatever happened to Ed Rigby's son? That was the star. He was like a Kilcrease when he was at Elba.
Yeah.
Troy ended up signing. He ended up going Troy for 1 year, then I think he transferred to Gardner Webb. Is that right?
Yes, and he's out of. I'm sure he's probably coaching somewhere. On a very sad note, Coach Rigby has another son that has been very ill, and our prayers and thoughts with him, and hopefully he can pull out of all this. But he's been very sick.
Oh, Okay.
And the Rigby are wonderful people. I mean, Coach Rigby, the head basketball coach at Troy, women's basketball coach at Troy, is just a super person. I'm telling you, one of the great people. And a lot of people think that's the reason that she's so successful is that the players just play so hard for her because they love her. She's just a great person, people person coach at Troy. And then her husband, Coach Ed Rigby, is one of the finest high school coaches in the state of Alabama. So, and I think they live in Troy, and of course, Eufaula is a good football town, and I'm sure that he's been very pleased being there. Elba beat Bibb County 31-0. So, excuse me, Andalusia beat Bibb County, and Andalusia looks strong.
Elba got beat.
Yeah, Elba got beat by.
Is Andalusia undefeated?
No, Andalusia's been beaten twice.
No.
But they were to bigger schools, and they've got a good football team.
I mean, how bad do you think these high school programs that are struggling and you got COVID-19 issues? I mean, how bad do you think some of these programs are after the season be over?
Yeah.
I guess they only got about 3 or 4 weeks on that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. They claim now that the virus is as strong as ever. What are schools doing to stay afloat, and not have to cancel ball games?
I'm not seeing that. I mean, numbers are 35,000 a day yesterday. Deaths was, I think, around 300.
That's worldwide. The deaths are 300 worldwide.
No, that's in the United States.
United States, okay.
The positive cases are going up because they're testing so many more people. The deaths are going down.
Yeah, that is good.
But here's the stat that stuck with me. This is from about 2 weeks ago. The number of positive cases over X number of weeks has gone up 16%. That's pretty big. And you say, wow, that's alarming. But then you find out that the number of tests that have been given have gone up 22%.
Yeah.
So there's the correlation is between the number of tests given. The more tests you give, the more positive cases you're going to get.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got to find something to vaccine. Boy, we got to have that.
That's coming.
And
Florida, where I live, there's a lot of controversy because DeSantis, put Florida now in stage 3. So that means all the restaurants down here are 100% capacity now. All your gyms, movie theaters, everything are back open 100%. And Florida still has, a pretty good number of corona cases each day. But, I'm in the wine sales down here. I'm a wine rep, and all my restaurants have been open for this forever. So now they can open all their bars. You've been able to sit at bars down here because of the separation issues. So now it's just wide open down here. These people are jumping for joy. And
well, is that going to be good or bad, or are we going to have
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You could have a spike, but I mean, it's one of those things. He was ready to do it, even though the numbers didn't really say he should. He did it anyway because that's just the way he is.
The one stat that it's just cases. What's missed is the number of cases that are asymptomatic. Asymptomatic means you have no symptoms. I've been harping on this for a long time. I said, whether you're sick or not matters. And finally, there's a big controversy over the number of cases at Alabama and their students, which is over 2,200. Finally, a reporter got a dean at the University of Alabama to say what percentage of these cases are asymptomatic. You know what the percentage was? 75 to 80% of all the positive cases at the University of Alabama were people that were asymptomatic. They had no symptoms. They were completely healthy. So,
but they would find.
Well, then you say, well, they could. They were positive, but they had no symptoms.
Yeah.
They're not sick. So far more people at Alabama will become sick with the flu than become sick from COVID. Is my contention. Now, the other people say, well, they can still transmit the virus to people who are at risk. That might be true, but actually the hospital admissions for COVID patients in Tuscaloosa and Auburn has gone down big time since the students started returning in mid-August. i.e. the students are not infecting the older people in the community. If they were, you would see more people that are in the hospital for COVID. So that's the other side of the story.
Of course, we're going to take a short break. Our show is brought to you by Troy Bank and Trust Company, the only bank you'll ever need.
The 72-hour program car sale is happening now. Low mileage lease turn-ins, extra clean rental cars, save up to 50% off original MSRP. Plus, over 30 vehicles priced under $15,000 and 120 to choose from. We are overstocked with Ford, Chevy, Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, and more. The 72-hour program car sale only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Shop us in person or online at PremierTroy.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
Our history is woven with the stories of those we serve. At Max, we've been a good community partner for 65 years. Max is dedicated to providing dependable financial services and to supporting our communities. We volunteer our time and share our resources. As a credit union, we've returned millions of dollars back to our members, local nonprofits, and small businesses. Max is honored to be a part of your story. We look forward to serving you for years to come.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
LSU helped them when they quit the third quarter. But
back to our show, ladies and gentlemen. Max Howell has joined us here on Today in L.A. We're coming to you live from our studios on South Brunny Street in Troy, Alabama, and on Facebook across the nation, across the world. And ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a big weekend of college football. It's the Auburn Tigers taking a bus ride to Athens, Georgia, to do battle with the Georgia Bulldogs. It's Auburn and Georgia, the longest running series in college football. Auburn going to go against Georgia in what should be a very good football game. It's going to be on ESPN at 6:30 tonight, Saturday night, and should be one of the top matchups of the day. Joining us from the friendliest village in the country, if you're a Mississippi person, is Max Howell. Good morning, Max.
morning, Mike. I'll tell you what, it's a lot of good football this past weekend. I think there's, some room for improvement, but I think some programs turned some people's heads. And I know we'll get into talk a little bit about it, but coming up this weekend, I think that's the good thing about the 10-game SEC schedule. Every week, it's going to be some outstanding football games. So I'm excited for it.
Well, it looks like Mississippi State is off and running on that game. How they sort of manhandled LSU. Everybody talks about how well they were able to move the ball, passing the football, but hey, their defense shut them down too. Yeah,
they did. I think that was the biggest improvement in surprise, basically for Mississippi State, was the defensive side of the ball. They only really had two players. They had a defensive back and a defensive tackle that never even had any playing time whatsoever. So they went with a bunch of new young guys in that system. But I think what really destroyed LSU was Leach's passing game. Yeah. And of course with Costello, you should have known that they were going to be better. I mean, look at Costello's statistics when we got there. Playing for Stanford in the Pac-12, he had tremendous statistics, over 4,000 yards last year, and he's been a starter up there for a couple of years. So I think it was a surprise that they played that well. But really, for me, the surprise was how poor LSU was prepared. First was prepared, and the second level, the talent level.
All right, Mike Amos is over there from Grayton Beach, saying good morning to you, Max. Something though that is scary was Costello. He was on that what do you call it? The trademark. What do y'all call it?
Transfer
rule. Does that mean he's got another year after this? Mike, is that true?
Everybody can play another year. This year doesn't count as far as you're eligible.
So Costello, who was a senior,
he can come back and play next year.
I know, but he was a senior this year. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a grad transfer, yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, hear this new rule, Max. This is going to really tear into college football. This guy Costello can play another year, and he starts off this year with 600 and some yards. He might. No telling what this guy might do.
I think you're gonna look into that. But when would he come back?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he's gonna be a top 10 prospect, in the NFL, and he's gonna be 23 or 24 years old.
Yeah.
On top of that. So I understand the rule. And I know what you're talking about, but I think when they passed that rule, they took that into consideration. That a lot of those kids are anxious to get to the NFL anyway. They want to take advantage of what they got going this time, and if they go become a top draft choice, they're going on to the NFL with a
But hear this. Just think what it's going to do for Auburn. It's going to give them 3 more years of Cox. And Cox, no telling how good he'll be after that third year.
Bo Nix, Brandon Cox.
Bo Nix. What am I talking about? I get those two mixed up. I'm sorry. Bo Nix, they give you another year of Bo Nix. I don't think Bo is going to be a pro guy that much. What do you think?
No, I don't think indication at all right now. But there'll be
But he's a darn good college player, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a solid piece to build around. And Auburn still got some work to do. I'm gonna tell you that when they line up against Georgia this weekend, they ain't seen a defensive line like Georgia's got since they scrimmaged the ones at Auburn last year. I mean, Georgia's going to end up with one of the top defenses in the country, and I'm not sold on Auburn's offensive front yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the shock of the day when I turned it over, and at halftime, Arkansas was leading Georgia. I mean, I was absolutely just floored by that. Of course, Georgia almost got back in covers.
Well, I think one of the reasons, though, Michael, is that the kid that ended up playing quarterback had never taken a snap for the Ones. Basically, he was like number 3 on the depth chart, all in preparation for this ball game. So that just tells you their offense has got a long way to go yet.
I'll tell you this, and of course every team has this problem. What happens if your quarterback gets hurt? Let me tell you this: Auburn would be in terrible, terrible shape if anything happened to Bo Nix. I can't see they don't have hardly anybody under him that can play. I mean, really, that tells you a little bit about Auburn. I mean, they've got one quarterback.
They brought in a starting quarterback from Bowling Green last year. He's the backup.
Oh, is he pretty good?
Well, I mean, the guy started a whole year of Division I football. It can't be horrible.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that to my attention. My game is calling in from.
But Bowling Green's league, Michael's not quite like SEC.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll find a lot of kids who transferred.
That probably factors into the play calling at Auburn. They talk about Nix as a good runner, but do you really want to run him that much if you don't have a backup that you can play?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Max Howell, one of the very well-known sports football analysts in the country. Is calling us from Fulton, Mississippi. Put Fulton, Mississippi on the map, Mike. Everybody knows where Fulton, Mississippi is, and everybody wants to know what's for dinner. Well, we'll get around to that later on in our show. But, Max Howell never realized that he was going to be a world-renowned cook, And he cooks excuse my language, he cooks for a bunch of rednecks that have just got through hunting or fishing on the bayou. Is that right?
And I'll tell you about this coming Saturday before kickoff at 11 o'clock. All our guys are going squirrel hunting that morning.
Squirrel hunting. Oh boy! Listen, I was raised on squirrel. I ate a lot of squirrel growing up.
So all those guys that you cook for, they all stay together at some lodge?
Oh yeah, I have two groups. Bill, one in the north part of the county, and they cross over, but it's about 10 or 12 of them combined, and they'll bring their friends. It depends on what day and what's going on weekend wise, but there's about a core of 6 or 7 of those guys that's going to show up every week. And most of them are not big time football fans. They just they watch it, but they're big into NASCAR. They're big into hunting and fishing. All the things that you would expect the rural community to be involved in. Now they understand about the football game, and they know there's certain groups of people in their group that like it. But we got a couple of people driving over from Atlanta this weekend.
All right.
This group.
All right,
and they're big time football fans.
I know it. All right, Max, let's take a look at it. First of all, let's go right here at home. Troy was sort of dismantled by a very good team from Brigham Young. What do you think about that game?
I sit and watched that. That was the last game. I sat down in my chair Saturday morning, 11 o'clock, flipped it on, and I watched till the last play that Troy played that night, which was close to 1 or 1:30 in the morning when they finished that game. It did surprise me that the team speed that BYU had. I'll be honest with you. I knew they were pretty good and well coached and all, and I thought Troy could probably do. But I'm gonna tell you guys, Troy got controlled up front with three defensive linemen, and they hadn't blocked that nose tackle yet. I mean, they had to put 2 on him every snap, and he flipped the double team. Yeah. So I mean, it was a for BYU, it was a good exhibition, and I could see, and we talked a little bit about this, the time they played, the trip out there. Troy wasn't by far as sharp as I've seen them play before. They just,
they looked like they were slow. I mean, I thought the advantage was going to be that Troy would be a lot faster than BYU and again give us at least a chance. But like you said,
Troy looked like they didn't get off the plane. Man, they should have been practicing. They should have been practicing every night while they're in Troy at 9:30, 9:45.
All right, Max, if I ask you one thing Troy would have to do would be they'd have to be able to run the football to have any balance at all. Troy rushed for 19 yards. And what I'm saying, they had 8 in the box the entire game.
Well, that defensive front controlled the run game because they would have to double team every one of those 3 rushers, and then they walked the linebackers up. The coaching staff did a really good job in having a game plan for Troy. They knew exactly the tendencies and how they were going to do it. And we got to remember too, the quarterback situation is still very young. And he's still got some growing to do mentally. And I know they needed to play that game for the money for the athletic department. But man, I'm gonna tell you that trip out there, I guarantee they didn't get home until 7 o'clock. So
they got home at 8:30 the next morning. Sunday morning, they got home about 8:30. I heard the sirens when the buses came in, and you're right. They were on. People think those trips are easy. They're not easy at all. They have to go through security, and now they have the COVID virus. They got to go through. It's a headache now. It really is.
Now they got to turn around and go to Mobile this coming weekend for a really challenging football game. And South Alabama's not been that good consistently, but they'll play good against Troy. I can promise you.
Yeah. You were talking about those 3 they rushed, and they had 8 in a box. That means they had 8 people up close to take care of the rush, and they did. But it was just a team that was very, very good against a team that was.
Troy was 3 and out. I mean, Max, you were an offensive coach. I mean, you were a coordinator. I mean, how do you not pull your starter Watson? Hold him out a series and kind of let him see, from the sidelines, bring in the backup quarterback and let him play a couple series and then put him back in there. Because, I felt like in that game, he was just, clueless out there.
He was.
Of course, we couldn't block anybody. That was obvious. But, every single throw he did,
here's the problem. The reason coaches don't make those changes like that. One or two things. One is they have no confidence in the backup guy, or his talent level is not even comparable, or he Chip thought maybe by leaving him in, the experience he gained from that. I think they knew by the second or third series they could win that ball game. Look, they didn't have anybody on the defensive side could run those wide receivers.
Yeah.
It was just an outmatched BYU football team, and I think that was a surprise. It was to me the difference in just the overall team speed and really the preparation for that ball game.
And they don't throw the ball downfield. Of course, BYU had a lot to do with that, and they took the pass away. I mean, the run away, and that left it up to this young quarterback to do something, and he was unable to accomplish much on offense.
Yeah, like I say, I think we all understand why they had to play the game. They made the trip, but hindsight's always 20/20. They need the money for the athletic department, but that was a very costly trip for them. Not so much physically, but just psychologically. How bad. And what it did also to me, guys, is it opened up for the opponents the rest of the year a game plan.
Yeah, exactly.
How to stop Troy. And I know every team's not going to have that talent level, but you'd be surprised if you come off a trip like that and a devastating loss like that. You got another week or two. You got to get them back up.
Every game is going to be a tough one for Troy. I thought that it's going to be tough, and of course, hopefully they can get back their confidence and be able to beat
Troy
Alabama.
didn't have an off week the rest of the season, due to the La Monroe game, not played because of the COVID issue. Troy plays, consecutive games until December the 5th.
Yeah. In fact, Troy is one of the very few schools in the country that's playing 12 games. I think it's just a handful. All right, we got a call. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, the majority of the Sun Belt schools are playing 12. I'm not sure on Conference USA. I'll have to look and see. But yeah, most of the Power 5, ACC's playing 11, SEC's playing 10, the Big 12's playing 9 or 10. They're playing 10. I think Big 10's going to play 8, and then the Pac-12's going to play 7. So,
all right. Now, will they qualify for a national championship, Max? Playing just 7 games?
The championship game will make them 8, and I think they'll use 8 as a number. That's what it looks like now. See, the committee, we talked about that before, guys. The committee's being very careful and deliberate and not stepping out and giving you a formula yet. I don't think that formula will probably come out about mid-season as to how many games it takes.
Big 12 looks awful. I mean, Oklahoma already lost. Texas should have got beat by Texas Tech. I mean, I don't think anybody's coming out of the Big 12. I don't think anybody's coming out of Pac-12. I think it's going to be Ohio State.
If Oregon goes undefeated, I think they'll put them in.
Yeah.
And I think they got to go undefeated though. But I do think that'll be the holdout to see if any conference gets 2. If the Big 10, the SEC or ACC. And of course, you got to throw Notre Dame in, even though they're playing the ACC. But I don't think they Clemson. Notre Dame team. I think Clemson, Alabama, the best 2 football teams I've seen this year so far.
That game between Clemson and Notre Dame will satisfy a lot of people's feeling about everything. And everybody thinks North Carolina's a lot better, and maybe so, but
Miami looks really good.
Miami looks real good, and
they're going to get destroyed in 2 weeks with Clemson, though.
Yeah. Of course, Clemson, Alabama, and probably Ohio State are the 3 that you look at more than anybody. Alabama looked real good, didn't you think, Max?
Yeah, I think Coach Saban took a page out of Dabo's substitution. He started 7 in the second quarter, and I think the fourth quarter was ragged. They gave up a touchdown at the end that they probably shouldn't have done, but he played a lot of young kids. Played a young kid, the quarterback, the last quarter. They played a lot of young defensive and offensive linemen in there as well. They had the game under control. I think the first 3 quarters, you're right, you could see the talent level difference in those two teams. And they let Missouri get back in. And so I don't know what that does to Missouri. You know,
didn't you think that Missouri looked real conditioned and lean? And I mean, they hit Alabama about as hard as you can hit them. You know, I thought physically Missouri was a tough football team.
Yeah, it was physically tough, but you could certainly see the difference in the talent.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where it goes. And I think that's, you know, that's what Coach Saban's doing his program on. That's where he's going to be.
Max, before we get completely off of the BYU game, have you ever seen a team play action pass more than they did? Very rarely did they drop back to pass. Everything was play action. Have you ever seen that?
Well, you know, I from time to time, yeah, it depends on the game plan. It depends on what the defense gives you. You know, I think Troy was kind of just disheveled, and I don't know whether because I don't watch BYU that much. We did the opening ball game, and they didn't look really that sharp in that opening ball game. They won 55-3 against Navy. They looked pretty sharp. Not against Navy, they did. I mean, you got to always consider the opposition, Michael.
Yeah.
55-3 at Navy, and Navy turns around and beats Tulane. Well, but Navy, did you see the game? Navy didn't play that ball. I mean, they had to practice. Well, Bill and I talked about it. They didn't go live in the off season. Well, that's their fault.
I know, talking about Navy, yeah.
That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard a coach say before the game. We had no live contact.
I know it.
Can you imagine him going on national TV and everybody in Vegas running through the sports book? Ground. Trying to place bet on BYU.
Very true.
Of course, Alabama was very impressive throwing the football, especially in the first half. And Jones impressed me a lot. He's very smooth. I thought Alabama really had a clean look about them. They ran to the football good. They're a very good football team, don't you think?
No, I don't think there's any doubt right now. The talent level, of course, we haven't seen Ohio State yet, but we know I think they're going to be there. But Clemson, Alabama, just looking at the team and their performance up to down, you know, that's you know, we got A&M coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend, so that's another one. How does Texas A&M beat Vanderbilt by 5?
Well, like I said last week, he's the most overrated coach in college football.
Yeah, you know, if they play like that against Alabama score 50. You know,
that's right.
I don't understand how a guy can be in a place like that with all the revenue, everything they got, and put a football team on the field like that and have them perform like that. But
Alabama's new capacity has come out, Bill. I don't know if you've seen this. It's 100,077. So they've lost close to almost 2,000 seats. So 20% come Saturday in Tuscaloosa. That'll be what, 20,000 people at the game?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know why they can't do 25%. I mean,
I think everybody's already pretty well adjusted that, you know, basically the home field advantage from the crowd is out of it now. So now it all depends on preparation.
I tell you what, Auburn game, that crowd at the Auburn Kentucky game was pretty loud, I felt like.
You know what Auburn did that was smart is they gave more tickets to students, a lot more than Alabama is. And those students they go and they're excited and they make noise, which gives you a little bit of a home. The crowd noise is the only thing that matters in these stadiums.
You guys are missing the point. Half that noise is piped in. It ain't coming from those people in the stands.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you.
Well, that's possible.
Unless you're there, you can, you know, that's the only thing. Sitting on television, it appears it's coming out of the stadium. That's all. That's, you know, that's what the operational for the TV is all about. Is giving you that feel for the stadium. Well, I can tell you, there's been in too many stadiums in my life. The 20,000 in a 100,000 seat stadium is like a high school game.
Max, let me ask you this: what do you think about Auburn? I thought, you know, they beat a good football team, and what do you think?
Well, you know, I think the way they started, it was slow. That was really no surprise. I still think, they had to replace 4 starters and really 5 up front for the offensive front. The running game is still, a lot to be desired. They got to improve on that, without a doubt. And then the defensive front. You can't lose 2 or 3 starters in the first round and expect to be as good as, as y'all. That's what bothers me about Auburn's offense going against Georgia's defense. If you really watch the defense, particularly second half, Georgia, they picked it up and did what they had to do. Now, you let Georgia, coast in on the outlook. I'm not a Kirby Smart fan by any means, but he's got a track record of not being a very good offensive-minded coach or even hiring somebody. But 7-5 at halftime, as Michael said a while ago, that was a awful performance the first half. Then they got it together the second half. So back to Auburn, that'll be a different approach, both for Georgia and for Auburn in this ball game, because I know what's at stake. But Georgia's going to have to play like they did against Arkansas for Auburn to win. If they play anything different, Auburn can't beat them over in Athens.
Okay, and we're going to find out really a lot about.
I tell you who looks impressive to me. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, but Florida looks like their offense is going to be incredibly good. I know Ole Miss doesn't have much of a defense, but I'm very impressed with Florida.
Trask is as good a quarterback as in the country right now. I mean, the kid's lost 25 or 30 pounds. He's a 6'5" kid, about 220 now. He's got the best touch on the football of anybody I saw. That includes Costello at Mississippi State. He's got a touch on there that he threw 4 or 5 passes, I guarantee you, half the quarterbacks in the NFL can't throw. They were over the outside shoulder that only the wide receiver could catch it. But they got some places to, they got some improvement to go. I think they were very tentative on defense, not knowing what they were going to face. But he did a good job in keeping them off balance, because the talent level there, Florida's got way more depth than Ole Miss had.
Don't you?
Week in and week out, was they got South Carolina in Gainesville this weekend. They should win that one. And I looked at the roster, the way they play. The only team I think can play with them, Georgia, right now. I think they'll beat LSU, and I think they'll beat everybody else on that roster. On the schedule this year. Except they got to go to Jacksonville to take on the Georgia Virgin in October.
It's going to be the most prolific schedule that we've seen in college football in a long time. I mean, by them playing every conference team, every week's going to be a real challenge for everybody. Don't you agree that this is the best football we'll see in a long time with the quality of opponents that each team plays every week?
Well, Nick Saban came out this week said he wants a 10-game SEC schedule every year.
Yeah. It sure makes every game, it throws away a lot of those Western Carolina games and all that. Every week you better be ready. Is that right?
I'll say this. Don't forget about Tennessee this year. Tennessee's going to come up and beat somebody this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Pruitt's got them playing pretty good football.
I can see on the paper, can't you see Alabama, Florida both undefeated in the SEC championship game? And, does the loser of that game get in the playoffs? I would think they would if they had run the table in the SEC regular season.
We're watching the best football.
10 wins would be huge. Yeah, you're right.
Max, never have we seen a more competitive schedule of any college football team than we're seeing right now. And it's going to be good every game. Every game's going to be a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by Premier Dodge Chrysler Jeep and Ram Trucks, located on the bypass in Troy, Alabama. Jason Gregory and his team is getting ready for the biggest sale in their history going on right now in Troy, Alabama. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
The 72-hour program car car sale is happening now. Low mileage lease turn-ins, extra clean rental cars, save up to 50% off original MSRP. Plus, over 30 vehicles priced under $15,000 and 120 to choose from. We are overstocked with Ford, Chevy, Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, and more. The 72-hour program car sale only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Shop us in person or online at PremierTroy.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
Our history is woven with the stories of those we serve. At Max, we've been a good community partner for 65 years. Max is dedicated to providing dependable financial services and to supporting our communities. We volunteer our time and share our resources. As a credit union, we've returned millions of dollars back to our members, local nonprofits, and small businesses. Max is honored to be a part of your story. We look forward to serving you for years to come.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Troy Cable Security Wi-Fi doorbell camera allows you to answer the door from your smartphone when you are at home, at work, or on the go. When a visitor presses the button, Troy Cable Security sends a live video feed to your smartphone so you can see, hear, and speak to the person at your door. With the doorbell camera, you can have your porch light turn on automatically when it detects motion at night to create the appearance that someone is at home. You can view video clips so you can always know who stopped by when you are out. Troy Cable Security. You love them, protect them.
Play that game that week. so they just come up and say, oh gosh, we got too many people sick.
Well, I'll make a point. You know, in Alabama, most teams have now played 6 games. 6 games. Then they had 3 or 4 weeks of practice before the first game. So there's now been 10 weeks of players playing football. As far as I can tell, the sky has not fallen. I haven't heard of one football player being hospitalized. So it's, you know, you can look at high school to see that this isn't as big a deal as it's being made out to be.
Well, yeah.
I think we knew that.
Back to our show, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Wells Fargo Advisors. Hey, you want to make money? Call my good friend Colin McCreary at Wells Fargo Advisors today in Troy, Alabama. Little Caesars. Let me tell you, I got the thin crust the other day, and it was outstanding. This is great pizza at the best price.
What do you get on your pizza?
Anywhere. Well, I like hamburger. I like I like mushrooms. I like pepperoni, hamburger and pepperoni.
You don't get green peppers and onions?
Not necessarily. I don't. Onions. I love onions, but they don't love me very well.
No.
We lost a caller just a while ago. It was probably Will Matthews.
Will was calling in. He said he'll try to call back. I was going to mention the Auburn-Georgia rivalry. They have played 124 times. Georgia leads the series 60, 56, and 8. And the series started, it said, in 1892.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow, that is something.
I hear noise in our box. We're hearing a noise in our box.
How many of those games does Max Hall watch?
I was going to ask you, contrary to most people, I was not there for that first one.
Well, let me tell you this.
I tell you this, guys. I started watching them in 1955. I was recruited heavily. By them, I saw almost every game in 57 when they won the national championship.
Boy, that must have been a great team.
Yeah, exactly right. We've got some noise in our system here. Hopefully we'll clear that up in just a moment. Of course, I want to mention Troy is going on the road to South Alabama. It's going to be a tough road trip for Troy. I think this is by far the biggest game in maybe I'm not going to say history, but if Troy doesn't go in and do business and win that football game, it could be a long season.
It could be. You're right. If you win, it could be a great season, but if you lose, it could be a long season, right?
Let me ask you this, Max. you got that junior college All-American, and right now they got him ranked 4th in the depth chart. I would have thought about bringing in a guy that, of course, he's had more experience than all those other guys, and why they didn't go in there at least with an experienced guy and see if he can throw the ball downfield. You can't win unless you can throw it downfield.
But evidently, Mike, he's not picking up the coverage in practice.
Evidently he's not.
You know, you can't just because different people, maybe they just had 3 offensive plays where he played.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the Chip's got 50. You see what I mean? It's the way you perform. You practice every day. And this crap about being a game player, not a practice player, that's why coaches don't ever play those kids.
Yeah.
And if you can't perform, you can't trust the kid in practice every day, why are you going to put him in a ball game?
And another thing, not only was Troy one-dimensional running the football, their quarterback is completely one-dimensional, and that makes it so much easier to defend when you got a quarterback that can't run.
Well, I think you touched on it just then. If Troy can bounce back and get a win, which I think is going to be extremely hard.
I do too.
Physically, and you know, was that trip? Guys, it takes you 2 or 3 days to get over a trip across country.
They didn't even go out yesterday. I think that, and they were smart. I don't even think they even went out yesterday.
But you got to look at it this way. I mean, the way I'm looking at it, I mean, I'm extremely disappointed. I'm embarrassed. You know, it hurts really bad to see Troy play so horrible on national TV. But you know, you're going to start the season with 3 straight road games, and if you finish with a 2-1 record, I guess as a fan, you got to be excited.
What I'm saying, you're right, and gives you confidence and everything. It's going to be a huge game on both sides. South Alabama's got to have it, no question about it. I mean, they might try to get them even before the season ends if they don't win this game. This is a huge game for them, and I think a huge game for Troy. And Max, I'm going to pay close attention. It's a 6:30 kickoff from Mobile, and I tell you, boy, get ready to draw swords.
You got to move another TV into the room. You're going to have to watch Georgia, Auburn, and Troy South Alabama at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'd like to go to the game, but I don't know if I can get tickets. That's the thing that so bothers me so much. See, I've already got my tickets for all the Troy home games. They've already given out.
Boy, think if this was a regular season, this would be a hard sellout, and there would be there'd be about 3,000 or 4,000 Troy fans that would be trying to be there.
The band would be there.
Why don't you watch it in Biloxi and just say, "Oh, we went down there and tried to get tickets. We ended up."
You know what? That is a pretty good, smart thing to say.
Watching the sports bar.
Once you go watch that in the sports book in the bowl.
Well, you know what? If I can get Rice to drive me, I might do that.
You know, when they opened up the sports gambling in Mississippi, I went. I was just curious to see it. I'd never been to Vegas, and I'd never been to Biloxi, believe it or not. And I went to the Beau Rivage, and the first week you could bet on football, and I made a few token bets and just watched all the games and the little sports. It had about 10 huge screens. Michael's probably done it before. It was a lot of fun.
You know what? Nowadays, with the way television is, you know, I've got a place I can go and see a whole wall. I mean, just a huge screen. Or I can sit there like I was the other night, scared to death on what was going to happen. But it was just me and my TV. And I took the Troy radio, Max, and I listened to it, so I got to hear the play twice. The radio came up, and then on TV, the play comes next. So I got to watch 2 plays, one of them by radio and one of them by TV.
I wish they could sync up the TV and the radio.
Troy do any better the second time, Mike?
I know, that was the thing about it. You're right.
That's what I got. That's what I got even more miserable.
Yeah, exactly right. But it's a fun weekend. It's a fun weekend of college football, and we've got 6 home games here in Troy to look forward to. We win those 6, we go to a bowl game. Is that right, Max?
Oh, I think
If they have bowl games.
If they have a bowl game.
And I'll be interested to see if I think when there's 43 bowl games across the country that's already scheduled out.
Yeah.
To find 86 teams that's got a winning record or at least 500 record, I think that's going to be a big challenge for
And I tell you, I think Johnny Williams and the Camilla Bowl would love to have Troy. They would love to have Troy come to town, and it would be a great event, I think.
But I think it, Mike, you got to consider how many people they're going to put in the stands.
Yeah, you're right.
They'd love to have Troy, but if they keep putting 4,000 people, they put up the bowl at what about 20%, there will be 2,000 or 3,000 people.
We need a shot awfully bad.
Hold this whole situation. I mean, Bill, don't you think? Say, there's an election coming up. There's a debate tonight at 8 o'clock on Fox News.
And that is big tonight. Watch it on.
The election is November the 2nd. Say after that, we all of a sudden have a vaccine. We have a vaccine before the Auburn-Alabama game. And you're telling me in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, you're going to limit the Auburn-Alabama game to 20,000 fans. I just think that's crazy. I mean, why would you make these decisions now? Why don't you just say,
I know.
Kind of just,
why are you locked into them? Or why can't you adjust it? Yeah.
Yeah, each week how it goes, and we'll adjust accordingly.
Because
that makes no sense to me.
But Michael, it's all about the politics, and that's why the presidents and all. Look, you talk about a political animal. Go sit in the college president's office. I don't know. And I can tell you.
Exactly.
If you think South Alabama County politics are tough sometimes, I can guarantee there's more going on campus at Alabama and Auburn than it is in Pike County. I can promise you that.
I tell you one thing about this game with South Alabama. The head coach played on a national championship at at Troy. The defensive coordinator at South Alabama played on a national championship team at Troy. The wide receivers offensive coordinator played on a national championship team at Troy. And what I'm saying, there's so much flavor here with both these coaching staffs. I bet more than half of their staff played or either played or coached at Troy.
They have 5 coaches that played at Troy. 5 coaches
that played at Troy. Don't you know they want to win this game? And their job could very well be on the line here.
Yeah, this is the more y'all talk about it, this is a huge game for both programs. I mean, it hinges, the season hinges or pivots on this game, maybe.
And, something that Max picked up, and gosh, that's the football coach in him and the analyst in him. South Alabama's got a right tackle that can't block his mama. What do you think about him? Max said he saw the same thing I saw. That Tulane guy was like nobody was in front of him.
He has no feet. He's about 6'6", or about 320.
He's pretty now. He's pretty as he can be now.
But he can't move. He's like a box car. I mean, they'll put 190 pounds out there and run around him in a heartbeat.
Did you know that was the difference in that game, I believe? Mike, did you notice it? The left defensive end for Tulane just went through there like it was nobody in front of him.
He couldn't block UAB either. You said that's 6'6".
I know. And surely, Max, he's pretty, but man, you can be pretty, but sometimes you got to be able to block.
Mike, don't you know the old adage? Looks like Tarzan, play like
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is the best gesture I've heard yet.
You remember when
he looks like Targan, ladies and gentlemen, but he plays like Jane.
You remember when Brody Crowell was sacked 11 times versus Auburn? Alabama had a tackle that year. I won't name him to embarrass him, but he was about the same all year long. And people just went right around that guy like he wasn't there. And I think he gave up about 5 or 6 sacks in the Auburn game.
You know what I hate? That's exactly what the Brigham Young guy did too. Nobody could block him either. And did you notice how the Troy quarterback had to throw bullets just to get away from the rush? I mean, he never was able to throw a soft pass. He threw the ball so hard nobody could catch it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, that was a total mismatch, and I'm sure Chip and him picked up on that in the first series.
But you know what? We go in and we win that ball game at Mobile, and we're off and running. Don't you agree?
I think it's that important. I really do.
Now, if you got some character, wouldn't it upset you that you kind of laid an egg on national TV like that, and wouldn't you want to redeem yourself the next week?
I'm going to say something I wish I didn't have to say, Max. I'm going to say something I wish I didn't have to say. This was the best opportunity for a Troy team to be seen by a national audience than in our history. It was nobody competing
Nobody else
against
on
us.
there,
It was us kicking off at 9 o'clock, and the entire nation, if they wanted to watch football, they had to watch the Troy BYU game.
But guys, that game's in the past now.
It is. You're right.
The whole future is dependent on how they do psychologically. And look, they'll go into the game all fired up. But you let South Alabama score a couple of times, they go down by 10 or 12 points. You don't think that flashback's going to hit them again?
Boy, it could be.
It's all about the mental aspect, not the physical aspect right there.
And man, and everybody lives on what they call it. I call it Johnny right now. They get the ball from center and they throw it to one side or another. I get so sick of that kind of football. It's pitiful,
What do you call when they throw out the screen pass?
Yeah, those strings. And what do they call it? What do they call that?
The bubble screen.
Bubble spring. I hate that play.
Except for when it breaks.
Everything's got to work, perfection.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just like getting down on a 3rd and 10 from the 10-yard line, and they throw it to the corner. It's got to be a perfect throw, Max.
I think that too.
Max, I mean, it's got to be a perfect throw, or it's an incomplete pass.
They do that sometimes from the 2 or 3 yard line. I say, well, aren't your odds a lot better of just handing it to the running back?
Yeah. Or they got a giant guy that can jump 10 feet in the air and get it. That's the only thing I can see.
If I had Auburn Seth Williams, I would do that play a lot because he's going to catch the ball.
Of course, our show's brought to you by Wiley Sanders Truck Lines.
The Major League Baseball playoffs start tonight. We haven't talked about it.
Is this the Tuesday morning quarterback club?
This is a Tuesday morning quarterback club. And then let me tell you this: nobody loves Troy any more than we do. But I just we're calling a spade a spade.
Well, guys, look, that game's over with now. I hope they got back and broke the tape down.
I agree.
But the talent level, guys, is not going to keep coming up with South Alabama anywhere close to what they just played. So they got to get that out of the system, get back to basics. And I'm sure today that's what they'll do. They'll go back to, we used to call it football 101. We went back on the field, Coach Bowden stand up. He said, guys, this is a football. This is where we start.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They go back to start with the, one-on-one blocking with the line, one-on-one coverage with a pass scale. I mean, you got to start. That's where you bring it back.
This is a great test. This is a great test.
Now, that you couldn't do then is you're limited to number of hours you stay on the field. See, we could keep them out there at 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody ever said a word. We just called them down and said, hey, they don't be there at 6, they'll be there at 8:30.
Mike, tell us about television. What do we got for television?
I tell you who I would be scared to play is Memphis, because Memphis beat Arkansas State by 2 touchdowns. Arkansas State beat Kansas State, and then Kansas State beat Oklahoma. So whoever Memphis plays this weekend, I feel sorry for them.
They are pretty good. Tell us about the television schedule, Mike, and who's going to be playing at what time.
Well, you start with your favorite team, BYU, on Friday night. They will play at 8 o'clock on ESPN2 against Louisiana Tech. They are a 22.5-point favorite.
Where is that game played?
That game will be Friday night in Provo.
Okay.
I would take every bit of that and throw it to the crowd because hey, they're gonna kill them. They're gonna kill them.
and then at 11 a.m. on ESPN, you'll have South Carolina, who lost a close game to Tennessee, at Florida. Florida is an 18.5-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Boy,
Keep it up. All right. What else? I like this.
Then at 11 o'clock on the SEC Network, you'll have Missouri at Tennessee. Tennessee is only 11.5-point favorite.
Well, like I said, Max, you saw it. Missouri. I like the third-string quarterback for Missouri if they'll play him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good football game. I think Missouri's better than y'all thought. And certainly, Tennessee did what everybody thought. The line was 3.5 and won by 4.
Yeah.
On the road.
And then a local connection here. Neil Brown at West Virginia hosts Baylor on ABC at 11 a.m. Already on the hot seat. I'm hearing Neil Brown at West Virginia.
Wow.
Baylor is a 3-point favorite at West Virginia.
Well, that's going to be a good game. I like Baylor in that game. They look to be pretty strong. no offense for that look like at West Virginia. They're not very impressive on offense, Max. What do you think?
Well, they hadn't had a full team yet played. I think at one time Dill had 20-something players out.
Oh man!
I think he was out 7 this past weekend. So I mean, that's,
a lot of those were suspensions. I
know they were. It don't matter why they didn't play, guys. They didn't play.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he needs to struggle through this year, but he's got to get more talent there right now.
The key is quarterback. I don't think he has the kind of quarterback that he's got to have to compete.
And then 2:30, Memphis, the game I was mentioning, nobody wants to play Memphis. Memphis travels to SMU. That game is a 2:30 kick on ESPN2. Memphis is a 3-point favorite, playing Charles Henderson's Richard McBride and SMU.
What is the over or under on that game? That game, they're going to score. I wouldn't doubt if it won 80. What is it going to be?
Right now, it's 74.5.
74.5.
That over.
Both of those teams going to score at will.
2:30 CBS, Alabama hosts Texas A&M. Alabama's a 16-point favorite. Do you think Alabama will cover the 16 match?
Absolutely.
I do too. Alabama was smooth. Alabama was smooth. They don't look like they got a killer defense, but they're going to be good enough to get the ball back.
And then SEC Network, you've got Ole Miss traveling to Kentucky, 3 o'clock. Kentucky's a 6.5-point favorite. Only 6.5 at Kentucky.
Oh,
I think
man.
it's going to be a good football game. I think Kentucky's rebound. What's surprised to see Ole Miss get beat?
And then, do you want to call an upset here, Dad? On CSS or CSS, CBS Sports station, at 3 p.m., Jacksonville State, who has not played a game this year, will travel to Tallahassee to play Florida.
Whoa! Let me tell you this, Max. Jacksonville's going to play them tough. They got that quarterback from Clemson on that team. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, Florida State's the worst. I've not seen but one team worse than Florida State. That's Georgia Tech. Both of those teams are awful.
No big name school has suffered what Florida State had. They're the worst. They have fallen off the table.
It can happen.
Then 6:30 on ESPN, you'll have Auburn traveling to Athens. Right now, Georgia's a 6.5-point favorite against Auburn.
Okay, that's going to be a heck of a game.
I like Auburn. I like Auburn. But Georgia's defense looks really good, but Auburn's offense looks better than Georgia's offense.
You know, Max, I know you're watching this game, and you know Malzahn personally. Auburn doesn't seem to screw up. You know, every week they seem to play good football. They don't seem to just
self-destruct. Yeah.
You know, self-destruct.
Well, you know, I think the situation at Auburn is they never quite live up to the expectations from the fan base. You know, and I think that's what's happened to Gus all the way through his career. You know, they'll play a great ball game too, and they'll come back and they'll struggle to get through the next one or lose the next one. Now, I think that inconsistency of not playing at the same level every week, and I think that reflects on the program. You know, in my opinion, I don't go to practice and I'll let everybody come in anymore. But when you perform like that on a Saturday, odds are you've had a good week of practice.
I tell you what, you got to give it to Malzahn. He showed a lot of class wearing that retro Pat Dye outfit.
I thought he looked good. Yeah.
A white short sleeve button-down shirt, a tie, the old Auburn hat.
I love that old Auburn hat. That's the best looking hat around.
They had Pat Dye on the field. I mean, that's a classy move by Malzahn doing that. He knows what makes the Auburn folks excited. No question. You got LSU Vanderbilt at 6:30 on the SEC Network. LSU is a 21-point favorite at Vanderbilt.
I can't see any. I would think Vanderbilt might shut them down.
That game's going to be played in front of no fans. Vanderbilt was the only team in the SEC that said no fans. Although they've adjusted it and they're going to allow some in October, but I guess not in this game. Or is this game in October?
Well, they don't have that. They don't have that many.
You know, Ernest Tubb just turned over in his grave. I hate that.
Then Arkansas Network at 6:30. So that'll be a game that people will be watching. And then Troy is going to be playing now at 7 p.m. So you'll have a little break to watch a little bit of Auburn, Georgia. And then Troy will be at 7 p.m. on ESPNU. They're a 5.5-point favorite against
Can we get ESPNU on our regular cable?
See.
You do, yeah.
We do.
Hey, who does Clemson play, Michael, if you know?
Clemson will host Virginia on the ACC Network. They're a 29-point favorite.
I mention that because, Alabama has been number one at some point in the season for 13 seasons, I think. And so if Alabama could look really good against Texas A&M and maybe Clemson lose or does not look so great against Virginia, Alabama might make it to number one for 14 years in a row, 13 or 14. That might be a record that'll never be broken. What do y'all think? To be number one at some point in the season that many years in a row is amazing.
Anybody else?
I do need to mention breaking news on Troy's first home game. They have now moved the home opener. It's moved to Saturday from Thursday. It will now be an 11 a.m. kick on ESPN2.
Well, that's good coverage. I don't like those early morning days. What now?
I'm just saying it'll be an 11 a.m. kick on ESPN2 next.
And that's
Saturday.
against Texas State. Is that right?
That's correct.
See, Texas State will love that. They'll love to be able to go ahead and get that game going.
I kind of like it. I mean, we can go and watch the Troy game and then come home and watch the other games.
Who does Alabama and Auburn play that week, Mike?
I'll have to look and see the schedules.
Yeah. Did you get rid of all your television games? What's your late night game, Mike?
I'll have to look and see.
We don't. None of the West Coast teams start playing yet, do they?
This is the best coverage Troy's ever had in their lives.
It is. It is really good.
I mean, ESPN, the mothership fly, on ESPNU this weekend, ESPN2 the next weekend.
That is amazing. Well, I'm for it, and I love the opportunity that Troy plays 6 home games. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you got to have season tickets to go to the game next week. You got to have, in 2 weeks, what I'm saying. You got to have season tickets, $100 for a season ticket. Hey, that is a steal. Think about that per game. $100 for a season ticket, and you play 6 home games. What? Give me the math on that.
$16, $17 a ticket.
$16 or $17 a ticket for 6 home games, and that's how you get in the game. You got to own a season ticket. It only costs you $100 for the season. Alabama-Auburn game is $150 a ticket, just that game. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Alabama's at Ole Miss next weekend on ESPN at 6 o'clock.
All right, good. And how about Auburn?
I'm looking. Max, what's for breakfast?
Max, you better wake up and get ready to serve breakfast.
Listen, man, we usually do, when we have a game on late night, if I cooked on Saturday, literally, we'll warm that stuff up, throw some good potato with biscuits, and whatever meat we cooked the night before, that's what we have.
Let me tell you a little bit about, do y'all have good link sausage?
Oh, listen, I got a guy in my hometown that's got, he's nationally known.
Well, take you a piece of loaf bread, take you a piece of loaf bread and stick that big old chunk of sausage on that piece of bread. Then get you a jar of honey and pour on the top of that. Believe you me, it don't get any better than that, Max.
Max, Doramus, isn't it Doramus? Isn't that your famous
Doramus, yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been advertising those guys for 20 years. They're really good. You can't find the grocery store. There's all this stuff is off the internet.
Well, Max, one great thing is
they've been in business since 1924.
Wow.
One great thing is, Max, I think today we've got this BYU deal out of our system. We'll forget about it ever happened.
That's right.
People don't realize, but Montana beat us 70-7 a few years back. Well, and those guys from Boise, we really don't have any business playing those guys out there. They wear us out every time we play them.
Well, it's a trip. Part of that is a trip, Mike.
Yeah.
These are country boys that used to ride on the bus up the road. You can't fly all the way across the country back. in one day or 2 days.
And think about this, Max. As a lot of those kids are scared to death to fly. They really are. A lot of them flew for the first time in their life.
There's no doubt. There's a lot of things psychologically that goes on, with a team like that. But then, I'm sure by now decided that, they've already focused on what they got to do this weekend. I look for the first part to be a little ragged, but they ought to be settled in by the end of the first quarter.
Well, I tell you what, it's going to be a great weekend of college football, Max. We always appreciate you and what you bring to the table. And I know we talk back and forth on this show. I hope the serious football fan enjoys exactly what we have to say. It's our opinion, and that's all it is. It's our opinion.
That's all it is. Very true. Very true, Mike. Thank you as always. I love being over with you guys.
Thank you, Max. You have a great week, man. Take care, buddy. And ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate all of our sponsors, Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram trucks on the bypass, and Troy Bank and Trust Company. Remember, Troy Bank and Trust Company, the only bank you'll ever need, and our good friends at Bill Jackson Ford, Bill Jackson Chevrolet on the bypass. Have a great day. See you tomorrow, bright and early, Bill Rice, for Today in L.A. Have a good one.